Warning. The following video contains strong language that some viewers may find offensive or disturbing.
What's that one cringe-inducing memory from years ago that you can't get out of your head? Doing a practice for a play in front of a small crowd of like maybe 35 to 50 people when I shit my pants. Middle of my lines, I felt the wetness and had to run off stage. I kept myself locked in a room the rest of the day. Went for an interview and handed the person my coat when they were trying to shake my hand. Update: I did not get the job, unfortunately. A few years later I went to another interview during which my stomach would not stop growling. Which is one of my worst nightmares made real. Somehow got a job there, lol. At the end of a great job interview. Shook the guy's wrist instead of his hand and held on like I meant to do it. Didn't get the job. A friend's husband had a job interview, and when he walked into the room there were 3 people, 2 men and a woman, sat behind a table. He started at the left and shook the first guy's hand. Then the second guy's hand in the middle. When he got to the woman on the right, he put his right hand out, and to his horror he saw that she had a prosthetic claw thing instead of a right hand. She had obviously come across this before, and so she just put her left hand out. Instead of just shaking hands using his left hand. He was so flummoxed that he did an awkward upside-down handshake with his right hand to her left hand. He was convinced that he'd completely messed up the interview, as his brain kept saying to him, "What the fuck did you do that for?" He was amazed to get the job, and on his first day he met the woman again, who told him that he thought the whole thing was hilarious. He worked with her for a few years, and apparently every time they met, they'd do the weird upside-down right-left handshake. Edit: wow, this really blew up overnight. My highest rated comment ever. An added detail about this is that we met this couple when we were living in London. Neither us or the other couple were from London originally and had only met through where my wife worked at the time. As a nurse at a large London hospital. The job interview was at a civil engineering company that were something to do with digging tunnels for London Underground. We were told the story while we were sat at the table at a mutual friend's wedding when he'd told the story. After we'd all had a good laugh. My wife said that she'd gone to school about 200 miles away from London with a girl who had a prosthetic hand and was known for her wicked sense of humor, and that she'd heard that she worked for London Underground in some capacity. Lo and behold, it was the same person. Not a massively interesting story in its own right, but a nice little detail. I was interested in a guy but didn't know how to start a conversation with him. We were standing next to each other while preparing food for a barbecue, and I just thought it was a good idea to start a conversation with. I like the feeling of touching raw meat. When I was 16 I got set up with a family friend's daughter. We started dating in a long-distance relationship. After a month or so it was school holidays and I went up to visit her. I didn't have a lot of money, but I wanted to buy her a gift. I settled on a beautiful jigsaw puzzle. She wasn't too happy about the gift. Because she was blind. Yes, I bought my blind girlfriend a jigsaw puzzle. In the moment it seemed very appropriate because each piece was unique, right? She can feel the pieces, right? Pure effing cringe. Still haunts me. Edit: thanks for the silver. The time my internet access was shot over a weekend. So I went to work as usual on Monday. And stayed and worked all day. And only found out I'd been fired the week before when I got home. Small, very high-profile business. Everyone was acting weird all day. I soft broil myself to sleep in this memory. Edit: for all the people mentioning HR and legal technicalities, this was a very small firm. The owner was famous within the field. Think of a celebrity with a staff of 7 people. No HR, no manager, just a small group of people glad to work there. I was there as a freelancer. This was in school. We were playing a game where one person chased everyone else. And when they touched you, you had to go to jail. That meant you had to put your arms inside the torso part of your sweater. And the sleeves got tied around a pole. You had to get loose to be free again. Either on your own or by the help of someone else. I think I was about 11 at the time. I got caught and tied to a pole. But I was wearing a hoodie with a zipper. so I felt incredibly smart when I unzipped it from the inside and ran away shouting, "Ha!" Thing is, I had forgotten to put on a t-shirt under the hoodie. And I was an early bloomer. So I basically showed the whole schoolyard my recently grown tits. Shudder. Severe lack of social skills and a desperate desire for attention made me lick a gym floor for a solid 3 feet. Streak to try and impress a pretty girl. I don't know what the hell I was thinking, lol. In 8th grade, a boy told me he used to eat paste as a kid because it smelled like popcorn. He then found a glue stick and, somewhat hesitantly, ate a tiny piece. He was fairly popular and I was an absolute weirdo. But I guess there's just something about impressing girls at that age. Definitely that time my professor asked what I did over the summer. And I wanted to say, hanging around and catching up with sleep. All I managed to blurt out was, sleeping around. That wasn't even true. When I was 16 I offered to take a girl I liked to the movies. I approached the ticket counter and asked for 1 movie ticket. Immediately realized I was an idiot. But was too embarrassed to rectify my mistake. She purchased her own ticket to the movie. Still haunts me almost 10 years later. High school play. I start improvising. I don't even know why I did it. I just got so into the moment I forgot there was a script. God, I can't even describe it in complete sentences. I hate me in that moment. Edit. It was Godspell, kind of like the Bible but confusing. Non-linear and musical, and I was one of the stuck-up priests. When Jesus started talking about God stuff I was technically supposed to be quiet. But I was all like, this man commits blasphemy, and I pointed to the crowd. I think. Like, you heard it. You all heard it. Then when he started talking more I was like, ooh, look at me, I'm Jesus. I have 12 best friends and I don't wear shoes. Apparently that was the bad part. Trying to run away from home when I was 6 only to stop at the start of the driveway because I was always told that it was dangerous to walk on the street without an adult. My parents have this really nice photo of me, with my little backpack, standing there looking really conflicted. I was a bit drunk at a friend's wedding and decided to scrawl all over 2 pages of her wedding book to fill up some space. Later someone was looking at the book and I heard them say, look at this. What sort of person does that? I still feel bad when I think about it. I fell into a fountain. Not once but 3 different times in 3 different fountains. On a trip to Europe with a group of kids from school when I was in 7th grade. Of course my crush and his friends went on this trip and they proceeded to call me Fountain Girl till high school graduation. Farted in class during a test back in middle school. Everybody knew it was me but I was too awkward to confirm or deny it so I just acted oblivious. That fart must have been pretty awful because a bunch of classmates around me covered their noses with their shirts and the teacher cracked open a window. Just the complete awkward silence that followed the fart and the feeling of everybody staring at me in disgust still makes me shudder with cringe whenever I think about it. Edit. I've been reading countless of you guys' embarrassing and hilarious fart stories. And it feels comforting knowing I'm not cringing alone here. So thanks for that. I did this, too. Except I was asleep when I did it and farted myself awake. But I kept my eyes closed. Everyone was laughing and the teacher got mad. So someone said, Miss. She farted. My classmates told me when I woke up at the end of class. But I just laughed it off. I was all, OMG. Are you for real? Ha 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 ha, I cringe when I think about it. I am cringing right now. I fell asleep in my high school history class. I was all the way in the back of the room so the teacher never noticed. Until I farted in my sleep so loud that it woke me up and my head shot up and smacked against the back wall. Never heard the end of it. Edit. Holy cow, this is my first ever post on here. Thanks everyone. Edit 2, since a couple people asked. At the time nobody really reacted. Except the guy in front of me was just kind of shaking. He turned around to look at me and was laughing so hard he was crying. Also should mention my crush was 2 seats over. Oof. So for context, I went to a really sheltered Catholic high school. So didn't really know how the real world worked. My first job when I was 16 and I'm being introduced to all my coworkers. One of them named Maurice, who was obviously homosexual, asked me if I was too. I wasn't but wanted to let him know I was cool with it, again Catholic high school, and said, no but I'm open-minded about it. To which he responded, we're gonna work on that. What an awkward summer. I cringe every time. Right. I grew up in an extremely sheltered household, so my brain just didn't know what racism was, and we were trying to pick teams for basketball and I tried to organize by color. I was a stupid child. In the first grade, one moved to a new school in a small town. 2 months in, I would literally lose bowel function for no apparent reason. Totally watery and intense abdominal cramps. I was shy and didn't have any friends yet. I was embarrassed and would just sit there in my own mess until the teacher noticed. This went on every day. Eventually they sent me to the principal's office and the nurse, teacher, and my parents thought I was just seeking attention. Despite packing 2 new pairs of undies and pants each day, I would still be soaked at the end of the day. Over the next 2 weeks I kept getting in trouble. I was held in from recess and had to sit in the hallway alone when I ran out of clothes for the day. I had to eat lunch alone and spent at least half of my days sitting by myself in the hallway staring at the wall. When my parents finally took me to the doctor, they found a strange intestinal infection with no cure. It eventually went away. So for 1 month in a new school I was that shy weird kid who smelled bad and couldn't participate in any activities. I graduated HS 12 years later with the same small class of students. It wasn't until my 10-year class reunion that one of my classmates, now a nurse, told me they all felt so bad for me and never brought it up because they felt like I was being abused when they saw me sitting alone in the hall in my soaked clothing. This restored my faith in how kind other kids can be. Oh man. Some context. My best friend growing up was black. We were inseparable. We wanted to make video games together when we grew up. All that. Well, he went with me and another member of my family to the store. As we were driving, a man nearly ran into my other family member's car, and my other family member shouted, "Effing N-er." It got quiet in the car. Then my other family member said to my best friend in the back, "You're not the N-er I was talking to," as a way to apologize. I was young, but even then I knew something awful had happened. It completely changed how I looked at my other family member and how my best friend looked at my family. We stayed friends, but I had to hang out at his house since he stopped coming to mine. Couldn't blame him. Super cringy. Life-changing. Edit, yes. He is still black. And we are friendly with each other. Neither of us went into game design. And I guess it is wrong to edit the racist out of this, so it was my mother. We never really talked about it. And the only time I see her now is on holidays with my kids around. It's not forgiven, clearly, because it had changed the course of my childhood and more importantly my best friend's childhood. Edit 2, I'm astounded by the interest in my story. My wife and I were up late talking about it because of this, and she has prompted me to ask my mom about it. See if she even remembers it. My wife also thinks there is trauma here. Not because I heard a racial slur, but because of the damage it did to my friendship and the loss of trust in the loved one. I never looked at it beyond being a horrible moment from my childhood. She also remembers me telling the story to her when we first started dating, some 9 years ago, when we were comparing stories about how our parents fucked us up. All that being said, we both came to the conclusion that there was definitely more damage done to my best friend. Anyways, I'll update if I do talk to my mom. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and hit the notification button. See you next time.